Thank you, Mrs. Tinker. Before I introduce these last two, I want to say that there are many teachers up here and many of you in the crowd that impacted my journey as a student here in Wellington at USC 253. But there are three men in particular that led me back into Wellington, into the field of teaching, and really led me to make an impact on students myself. And two of these men I get to introduce next. The first is Mr. Science himself. We welcome Mr. Al Millikar. Even though Mr. Millikar didn't spend his entire teaching career at Wellington, in the 5 years he was at WHS, he made a huge impact. At WHS, Mr. Millikar taught physical science and life skills to students. One thing that made Mr. Millikar so special are the behind-the-scenes things he did for the students, such as a priority rock. Mr. Millikar sent each of his freshmen a personalized letter about him, his class, and his expectations. Along with that, he gave each freshman a priority rock. For those students that kept the priority rock throughout their high school career, Mr. Millikar would award them a letter of congratulations along with a $10 bill at the end of their senior year. He handed out many $10 bills. And as if that isn't enough, Mr. Millikar still makes his way into Wellington schools doing science activities and giving rides on his homemade hoverboard. Thank you for your passion and love for education in our district, Mr. Al Millikar.
Last week, Mrs. Elders asked me to give a presentation to teachers, and so I said, okay, I'll do that. And she's from the Eisenhower Elementary School, and so I thought, just to do what I'll do is I'll do that priority rock experiment. So in the last 5 days, I was getting my beaker ready, the rock ready, and the ping pong balls and things like this, and she wrote back, says, now, I hope you're all ready to go. We'll meet at the WHS auditorium. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought I'm going to experiment. You said, well, did you read my attachment? Well, if you talk to Carla DeFore and Carla Lawless and James Ginner, Al doesn't know what attachment is. Well, anyway, I didn't know what attachment is, and I read that. So yesterday, I thought, oh, I want to speak to a little bit more people. So anyway, here I am. So that's why you have that introduction. Anyway, in 2006, I remember sitting right over there, and Mr. Liston, Becky Taylor, or Taylor Becker, where are you? Anyway, her grandfather, Dale Liston, called me up and says, Al, would you come talk to me? And so I did, and he said, would you teach physical science? And I said, well, I don't know, I'm a farmer, things like this. And he said, anyway, so he said, I'll give you some time, 5 days. Anyway, so within 2 weeks, without me knowing this, I'm become a teacher. I'm sitting right there. Anyway, when I came to WSU, or WHS, I was very apprehensive, what to do, And so the first thing we did after we had this orientation, we went to the computer room. All right. Well, anyway, I was having trouble with that computer for some reason. So another teacher came up and said, it must not be plugged in. And he looked around, and finally says he hit the switch. And I said, thank you. I could take a 24-row planner monitor, and I can hook it up. I can put GPS on tractors, but I sure couldn't turn a computer on and turn it off. But anyway, it wasn't for those teachers, I probably wouldn't have been here. Anyway, Mr. Liston, we went to start school, and I just having a rough time. I kept on thinking, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And I want to read a letter to you, and I want to challenge you as teachers that no matter what happens, if you stick with it, something may happen. I'll read this to you. I would guess that you get letters from students all the time to thank you for all you do for your kids. I've never felt compelled to write a teacher until now. I want to thank you for all what you have been doing for our son. As you very well know, the transition to high school was difficult for my son. It just seemed like everything that could go wrong went wrong, and when he would take a step forward, something would happen to pull him down again. One of the only bright spots for him was you and your willingness to get to know him, provide guidance and support. Your willingness to help him at every opportunity was a great support for him and family. Just to put things in perspective, to show how much impact you had on our son, I want to share a story a few weeks ago. He came home from school one day and immediately went to the kitchen. He put a pop can on the stove with a little water in it and filled in another pot with cold water. Once the pop can started boiling, he called us all into the kitchen. He placed the hot pop can in the cold water and it collapsed suddenly. He says, "Isn't that the coolest thing?" The expression on his face was priceless. He then told us that you had used that in class and went on to tell other experiments that you did. This was from a student who was up to that point showed very little interest in school. For the first time all year, was excited about school. Words can express how much we appreciate all you're doing, not only for him, but all of WHS. A real example of your impact on him can be found in the letters that you write for your students. Most of the time, anything he brings home is crumbled up and in the bottom of his bag, and we find it, he dumps his bag out on the table. Your letters always arrive in perfect condition. And he wants us to read them. Once we are done reading them, we want them back. He wants them back and he places them in his room. In 2011, those first 2 months were tough. And Mr. Listen, I told Mr. Listen, said, "I don't know if I can handle it." I talked to my brother, he said, "You know, Al," he said, "you don't get turned around," he said, "you're going to have a nervous breakdown." And so I just kept on working. I was very tired, of course, falling full time. And so on the way home, I would call my mother. My mother was on hospice, and I talked to her one afternoon, just driving home. And I said, "Mom," I said, "things are just not going good at Wellington." And you know how a mother is, you know, protects her son, you know, whatever, how they are. And my mother paused, and she says, "I want to tell you something." She says, "You may not think that school needs you, but you may not think that you need that school." He says, "Albert," she says, "that school needs you." And at that very moment, I knew that I was called to stay here. So I went and talked to Mr. Liston. I said, "You know, Mr. Liston, I don't understand benchmarks, and I don't understand the outlines that I have to put in." He says, I teach them at the seat of my pants like Carla Lawless does. And so he says, "Al, you teach like you want to teach." So therefore, this is the way I started out. Then we made metric rulers out of tape, and I had the kids bring hedge balls in, and we measured hedge balls every day, and we grafted them, and we weighed them, and so therefore that's how I taught metric system, by doing that. Then it come to chemistry. You know, I asked Mr. Smith. I said, "Mr. Smith, how many students you have?" He said, "Oh, about 35. Out of 125 students, that's my challenge." Well, if you want to know chemistry, teach the kids the metrics are the periodic table. And so therefore we would have a little contest in our room, and if you missed, you did push-ups. Well, Mr. Liston one day was taking a person through the building, and most of your classes were closed, the door was closed. Well, I was keeping mine open, and as he walked by, he looked, and at that time my kids were doing push-ups. And he says, "Mr. Liston, did I see what I thought I saw?" He said, "Yes." He says, "Mr. Melliker is getting them ready for chemistry." And he says, "Next time when I bring a person to school, we're going to be sure your door is shut." And the last thing he said is this. He says, "I'm sure glad when he went by, he didn't see my teacher standing on his head." Because when he did something good, I stand on my head, you know. So anyway, things started going pretty good. When we got into velocity, you know, when you talk about air density and pressure, things like this, we made hot air balloons. It was out in the lunchroom launching hot air balloons. And of course, we didn't worry about the fire code because I wouldn't be out there. So Mr. Liston told me, he says, "Al, if it's safe," he says, "don't ask me, just do it." Anyway, so we did that. And when we started doing other things, and so I'm trying to challenge you teachers that sometimes get out of the book. You know how to teach. You know how to teach. When you're called to teach, you just teach. And when we started doing the velocities, you know, yes, you can talk about velocities, you know, distance over time, things like this. Well, we made mousetrap cars. And so we would have mousetrap cars going up and down the lunchroom. And then when we talked about Morales principle, things like this, we have a hoverboard. And I had teachers on the hoverboard, you know, going up and down. And then when we, besides that, we sprint down the halls. And we had people at each corridor so somebody wouldn't be coming by and have a crash right there. So anyway, teaching is fun, and teaching should be fun. But at times, you teachers, there's going to be some tough days. In 2009, I had a tough day because they called me from Wellington, or from Caldwell School, and says, your wife has a problem, and we need to talk about it. And so I went in to visit the principal and says, you know, several parents are coming in and says, you know, the papers that Tree is grading are not right anymore. And I thought that's kind of interesting, you know. And then I talked to some other teachers and said, yes, we're having time to Tree's computer, things like this. We're having to help her so much more. Anyway, it got more and more like this. And finally, we finally said, Tree, there's something wrong. So therefore I went to the neurologist and says, you know, Tree, and now, you know, Tree has Alzheimer's. Now, I'll get through this all right. But so anyway, Tree had to retire, and because of my daughter, Amy and Tad, you know, they finally convinced Tree to retire. And so we had a down point, you know, at that point. But again, I'm just so happy to have, you know, the teachers here, and they kept me going. In 2010, I'm drinking water. Get the water. Anyway, in 2010, you know, some teachers were starting to find out that somehow Al's doing some faking around here, and I did a pretty good job of faking because most of the time before I'd go to my class, I'd go around and check on other teachers. And I remember Carla DeFore come to my class and says, Al, something's wrong, isn't it? I said, yes, we're having trouble with my son, depression. Anyway, long story short, I lost my son April 6th or April 7th, 2010. And we were devastated. We were devastated. But when you have a high school class, a high school bunch of teachers like I had, you know, it just started, you know, it helps very much. And my advice is to you that whenever you have a crisis like this, don't ever tell somebody, I know how you feel. You don't. But the high school class, or the high school teacher says, hey Al, we're there for you. That group of teachers gave me a large sum of money and said, we don't want that to go to Memorial. You just take off. And Tree and I took off. Tree has Alzheimer's, and I'm worried about her, you know, about walking away, you know, losing her, things like this. And we took off. We went to Jackson Hole. And as we got there, I kept on thinking, you know, Tree has Alzheimer's, we lost our son, what am I doing there? But as Ken was saying, you know, the prayer and your faith is so very, very, very important. And I went to the hotel, and Tad played K-State football under Bill Snyder, and his number was 57. We'd always go there on the weekend. I'm so proud of Tad, you know, he ran out there, never got to play in any games. He finally got on the second team, but never got to play in any games. But we'd be so proud. And anyways, as we got our motel room, the attendant gave us, guess what number? 57. That's how God is good. I tell you today, you teachers, when things get tough, there's a verse in the Bible that says, never, never will I leave you or forsake you. And if you're even low on faith, it doesn't say anybody that's high on faith that God, you know, that he'll never leave you or forsake you. He says for everybody. So I want you to remember that right there. So anyway, as we came on back, you know, that we knew we belonged there and had a good time, we came on back. And so what I'm trying to say today is this. There's another man in 1939, and July 4th, named Lou Gehrig, 35 years old. He's in over 2,100 consecutive games. And he wasn't doing very well anymore. Just like my wife, and finally diagnosis as ALS, and they call it Lou Gehrig's disease. And so they had a time just for Lou Gehrig to honor him. And he was so weak at that time that when they presented him the trophy, and if you look at the, Google it and look at it, you'll see that he takes that trophy and puts it on the ground. He's so weak he can't even hold the trophy anymore. And he asked not to even talk. And thousands of people rose their seat and wishing him would finally say something. And his coach they loved so very much went over and whispered something into Lou's ears. And Lou came over to that stand. And of course, you know that it's the greatest speech ever given in baseball. And he comes up to the stadium, he says that I consider myself the luckiest person on the face of this earth. He pauses and then he says that I know I've been given a bad break, but I've got a lot to live for. Teachers, I hope sometime that maybe in your room that you in your drawer or something like this, write that down and think about this, that yes, no matter what, you choose to be the luckiest person on this earth, and that you have a lot to live for and a lot to give. Also, as my mother said, to me, and also I say to you, that you may not think that you need that school, but that school needs you. You're called for that. You're called for that. And lastly, I say this. Bill Snyder is a wonderful coach. And if you ever notice, I don't know if he still does it, but every time before a ball game, he talks to every player during warm-up. And so he's over 100 players, and so Tad's warming up, and he goes by Tad and says something to Tad. And after the game, I said, Tad, what did he say to you? He said, well, first of all, when he came over, I didn't know if he even knew my name. He tapped Tad on the back, says, Tad, he says, learn something today. They'll make you a better player. And I take those words today for you. Learn something today. Learn something from somebody else to make you a better teacher. Thank you.